Your routine now, let's talk about that. You're 59. You have no desire to compete, at least not anytime in the near future, right? Okay. For the reasons you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, what does your routine look like now for someone who has a family, who's focusing on business, who still wants to look good, which I'm sure that's still a priority, right? You want to keep your physique looking solid, right? Like you could compete if you wanted to, right? Let's talk about that. What does that look like now?
Yeah, that's a great question because I go through some phases. Right now, it's the middle of winter and cyclical training throughout a year, meaning I do use periodization, with linear periodization with regards to some of my compound movements. I mean, for some of y'all who don't know what that is, you can look it up in powerlifting circles. Linear periodization was the basic way of increasing your weights that you could use in the course of 8 or 12 weeks, let's say. So I do use a form of that in my training where the weights that I would use, the maximum weights that I would use at certain times of the year, and this is older men wisdom now, okay? It's better to take a run up at it, bam, and you know you're at this end of the cycle, training cycle, where you started out, I'm just giving random numbers now, okay? Where you're squatting 275 pounds over here at the beginning of the cycle, maybe for 2 sets of 15, okay? And then at the end of the cycle, your goal was to squat 365. 4, 5. Okay. That's sort of the linear progression, linear periodization, and doing that for just one set. As you get near the end of this 12-week cycle, right here in week 12, 11, 10, and 9, this is the area where I'm more likely really feeling myself. Really, the warm-ups that day is I'm still a bodybuilder. Okay. I can talk to you like a powerlifter all day long. I have friends in powerlifting. They helped me over the years. I started out in a YMCA that was a powerlifting gym. So all of that being said, I can take all that wisdom they've thrown on me and it goes straight out the window if I find myself in weeks 9, 10, 11, 12, and I'm really feeling it. So I'm squatting and man, at that point I should be only pulling about 315 or squatting about 315, 325. But man, I put about 300 on the bar or 275 in my warm-ups. I'm warming up still. 275 felt light. It moved really easy. And in my mind, I'm already the switch has been flipped. It's already been flipped. I already know I'm throwing the 365 on there. I know I'm doing it. I already know it. I'm not waiting till the end of that cycle. That's one of the big principles that changes. That's a little bit of the excitement factor of still being young in this. Mentally, I'm still like a teenager. Wisdom wise, I have the wisdom of my 40th year this year, training me and others. So there's the wisdom. I know you didn't expect a very vague, overly broad answer, I should say. But my routine today has elements of that in it, where I plan on not lifting more than a certain amount of weight in big movements at certain times in my training periodization type cycle. Okay. And by the way, this will come in my courses for the advanced. That's coming later in 2024. So hold on to your hats, YouTube. The other courses are coming out sooner, the general courses. So that's one element of it is if you understand me properly, even though I have a plan set in place, it leaves an opening for I feel great today. All the elements are there. The well-rested, the nutrition, the sun is out today, or the temperature is just perfect. The atmospheric pressure is perfect, and I'm ready to go and I'm going to do it. So that element is there. But the actual routine itself, I go through a little power phase where I'm concentrating on my squats, my deadlifts, my incline presses mainly because I focus more on my upper chest with a barbell inside my power rack at this time of year through the winter. So how do I do that? I do that still infrequently with a low volume. I still do, in general, it's 3 days a week. I'll give you the highlights. 3 days a week. I only deadlift every other week. I do not deadlift weekly. That's one way in which myself and Mr. DaCosta vary greatly. As I heard him say, he was deadlifting like twice a week at one point. I was like, man, wow, all the blessings to you on that one. That's something I never did. I always did it every other week. And then squatting on opposing weeks from the deadlifting. See that? So similar muscles, similar chain muscles, squatting one week, deadlifting the following. And what would happen on my leg workout that week with the deadlifts is I would do something like belt squats that doesn't load my spine. Or if I'm in a gym, I may use a leg press, something that doesn't directly vertically load my spine. So those workouts, I'm conscious of the similar muscle groups that the deadlift employ and the squat employs. So I'm going to separate them by the week at this stage. But keep in mind, I'm pushing both of them when I do them. So the other morning it was 9 degrees. I was here in my garage gym and it was 9 degrees. In Texas, we had a little bit of a freeze out and it was so flippin' cold when I went in there. I have a little space heater. I had full sweats on, and I mean gloves even, which I never wear gloves. And as I started warming up, I actually did an elliptical for 10 minutes. That did nothing. I warmed up on the deadlift. And you guys who are like, set Nazis that are listening to this right now, I know you're going to try and bust me on this. You're going to say, oh, you did so many sets that day. No, I did one working set, but I did many warm-ups, 9 degrees, and I felt the cold straight through my legs, straight through the sweatpants to my legs. So I didn't want to risk chancing tearing a hamstring or anything like that. So I'm going to warm up as much as I want. Yeah, I took 135 and just went through the motions, 3 sets of 10. I still wasn't getting warm. Okay, 225, 315, 365. Now I'm up at 400. So finally, I was kind of warm. I just did a couple of reps with each, nowhere near what I would normally do, but that's the way it was, as opposed to when it's 100 degrees out, or even if I'm in an air-conditioned gym and it's like 70 degrees, and that's vastly different than 9 degrees. So I had to find a way of getting warm. I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm going to warm up that way to do what I got to do. So to answer the question, very low volume. I still average. I would say, again, I'm a bodybuilder, still a bodybuilder. That's not changed. That's still number one. So when I say I'm deadlifting on opposing weeks from my leg workout, well, what happens in that week when I'm doing those squats and that leg workout? If I'm doing my back that week, it's a straight bodybuilding back workout. I mean, chin-ups, yes. T-bar rows in the corner of the gym or my garage, either one. I just shove the bar in the corner of the wall and I load plates on it and I go. Dumbbell rows, sure. Barbell rows, bent over rows, sure. Not all in one workout, but maybe a total of, on back, it's generally about 4 total working sets of 4 different exercises. And then I'll do rear delts and then I'll do traps separately. Yeah.
Do you think that's also what influences you training with a bit more frequency now than you did when you were competing? Because you mentioned you would train no more than 2 times per week for the most part when you were in the prime of your competitive reign, we'll call it. But now you train 3 days per week. So is that part of the reason why as well, for just that enjoyment factor as well and keeping things kind of exciting for you on a week-to-week basis because you just enjoy training? Or is there another reason behind that?
Man, I apologize for not elaborating fully on that, because I would say I still do 2 normal training sessions, but one of them is going to be, it's like an odds and ends workout. Okay. I mean, you see this thing under my head right here. I know it's big. I know it comes across big on the screen. Okay. This neck that I have right here. I know it is, and I train my neck on one of those days, but I never did it to make it bigger. My neck was always big. I train it because I've been hit 7 times, car accidents. I've been rear-ended 5 times. I've been T-boned twice. And thank God my neck shows up great on x-rays. I look great. It's not an issue with the bones or the discs. This thing has saved me so many times that now I respect it so much I want to make it stronger. I don't ever want to take a chance. So I actually feel better when I train my neck. So this one's about, it does involve a little bit of feeling. So I'm willing to give up any potential digging into my recovery by doing an extra day of what I would call odds and ends. So I would train my neck. I would train my forearms directly. I would train my grip directly. I have a hammer strength gripper in my garage. I have other grip exercises that I do. I can't honestly say I use it on something like abs. I hardly ever train abs. I have really good abs. I never train them. But I would do certain exercises and stretches that I know are very good for anybody and everybody. So I would do single leg glute hip thrusters, okay? And not to failure. I would just go through the motions. I would do my rotator cuffs. So what am I doing here? I'm doing longevity muscle. I'm doing longevity exercises for my neck, okay? For my grip, my forearms. Wow, I never thought of it this way. Rotator cuff work. This is what that third workout is. And then hip rotator cuff work. I mean, really. So I won't do that the day before I'm going to squat or the day before I'm going to deadlift, but I would do it the day after. See? So it's another workout that I have fun doing. It doesn't require me to be, so psyched up like I'm going in there to make a big, massive workout, but it's fun and it's work that I know has a payoff. My rotator
Nice.
cuffs are great. My shoulders are great. I feel amazing. It enables me to still press weights with my shoulders and feel great doing it. I don't have shoulder pain. It enables me to have a healthy lower back. I don't have, lower back pain. My neck, and again, quote me, 7 car accidents, 0 were my fault. It's like there was a target on the back end of my car for a few years, and then T-boned, twice. This neck, boys, train your neck. Just do it. Train your neck. Don't hyperextend, but just train within a safe range and work the muscles of your neck. There's good ways of doing it. I've done videos on it. Check my channel. Yeah. So yes, I had to correct that, because in the middle of what I said, it was true. I do go into the gym, whether it's at home or at the commercial gym or at my job. And I will do those exercises. I have a neck harness, and I have access to a hammer strength neck machine at one of the
Oh,
gyms. So I will do those things on certain days. And plus I have that entertainment value of going from my home gym to a commercial gym to my work gym. So I have an entire gym I'm in charge of at my job as well. So,
nice. Yeah, I'm glad you cleared that up, and that makes a lot of sense now. It's basically 2 heavy duty workouts and then 1 longevity based or longevity specific type of workout. So, and that makes sense, especially as you're aging too. If anything, you want to start implementing that now, like when you're in your 20s and 30s, like get after it. Start implementing those types of things, like you mentioned, with the rotator cuff work, neck work, wrist extension, flexion, pronation,
yeah,
supination. Start training all that.
exactly. If anything, I always did rotator cuff work when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s. I always did. It made sense to me and it kept me pain free. As I got into my 50s and now I'm late 50s, but as I got into the 50s, I only ended up adding to that workout. And so I left out tibias. I have a tibia bar too. I'll work my
Nice.
tibias on that one workout too. So it's a nice little workout, keeps me entertained. I don't have to go anywhere for it, or I can go somewhere for it, and it's fun. And I have all the pieces I need to do it with. And to anybody out there, I would say we're all aging, by the way, but I would say as you're getting to if you haven't done rotator cuff work, you need it all the time. And if you're not doing it, then start doing it. If as you get into your 40s and 50s, you should probably consider adding a workout of dedicated longevity exercises, like I just mentioned.
It's interesting because when you were competing, was there any aspect of you wanting to be in the gym more just because you knew you were competing? You felt like, oh, my competitors are in the gym more. Did you ever have any of that at all?
No,
Okay.
no, I never did. The interesting thing was at that Canada show that I mentioned earlier, the WNBF Intercontinental, where I took second. The winner of that show, great guy. He was a Canadian Mountie, and he was also a WNBF competitor for years. Lael Soter is his name. Shorter than me, great physique, great family. He was ripped to the bone. He deserved it. All kidding aside, he won. I'm quick to admit when someone deserves it. He deserved it. He earned it. And when I got off stage at that show, I did my posing routine at night, and it's more relaxed. Second half, every competitor out there knows we're all more relaxed later in the day at the night show, right? We're all more relaxed at the finals because the judging's been done, the pre-judging is over. So I did my posing routine. I come walking off the stage, and Lael, the winner of the show, he comes up to me and he shakes my hand and he goes, "I've never seen anybody look like you up close on stage like that. Like the muscles are just popping all over the place, and they just look dense and hard and big like this." And I said, "Well, thank you for that. That's a real compliment. You probably haven't been around much the rest of the I mean, it was kind of a joke to me because, he's saying it to me, but meanwhile, at the World Championships, I was like seeing some real freaks, right? Natural freaks. And even Lael himself, I would go so far as to say that he never really saw himself the way he really is. You'll have pictures of this to share with the viewer. He was very, very good. So when he said that to me, we talked very briefly, and I pointed out to him, he asked me about training a little bit. And I just point out to him, I don't train much. I don't train much at all. But that's my nature as a human being anyway, is that, like I said at the very beginning of our interview, I would choose the harder, shorter route in anything as opposed to the moderate effort, much longer route. I would choose harder, shorter, except, and for my Christian brothers and sisters out there, forgive me for saying this, except for sex, that's about it. Sex, I would choose the longer route. It's much more fun that way. Anyway, it's a little joke on the side, okay? Let's not be so stuck up. Let's not be so stuck up as Christians. You understand me? We can have fun with that. That's the bottom line, is that I never thought that I would need to do more because of my competitors. I was making gains and changes in my physique at 49, 50, 51. It was only after 52, 53 that I looked back and thought, I don't think I could beat me from last year like that. That was the problem. That's why I stopped. I didn't think I could beat me from the previous year. Yes.
And that's despite the fact that, okay, you can make some certain changes with your training. No, you didn't feel that even with that would have done any sort of difference.
You are looking at the forever optimist. Okay. I am that guy. I've been backstage. I'll even give you another one. So here's a fun story. I'm at the WNBF World Championships in 2013, and I'm backstage, and there was a guy back there. I'm having trouble remembering his name. He was very popular in WNBF, a smaller guy, but he won like the Natural Mr. Universe. At Worlds, he would place pretty well in the middleweight classes, top 7 or so, but never top 5 or 4. We were backstage, and we're waiting for them to lift the curtain to open up the night show, and they bring all the bodybuilders out on stage. They have us all out there, just do one quick shot, and then we all file off. And he's standing next to me, and we're talking training and growing muscle. And he says to me that his trainer, as well as all of the experts that he's met, have said he can't add any more muscle at this stage in his career. Whoa. He didn't know how old I was. He was 50, 51 at the time. I was 48. Okay. And I was like this. Yeah, I'm not going to agree with you on that. Just no. I just no. And so it was a no for me. I was not going down that road. As a matter of fact, I have a good picture I'll send to you. It's a split screen of a 6-month difference in my physique. I call it the year of training dangerously, because what I mean, and I've tried to share with you, is that I took so many chances of damaging certain things, of hurting joints, of pulling muscles, tearing tendons, that there were some things I did that was absolutely crazy. We'll save for another interview. How's that, Kenny? And that's a whole other interview we can get into. And it paid off. So this picture I'm giving to you, and on the bottom, it has the dates. It's like 2013 till May of 2014. That 6-month period, I put on about 6 pounds. Almost all of it was pure muscle. This was on contest, on stage. You can see the physique difference, vastly different, and much bigger in the second one. So I made a change. So I couldn't roll with this guy. A nice guy, great guy, but he was believing what everybody else was telling him, and I wasn't having it. So as much of an optimist as I am, and I never told him how old I was, as much of an optimist as I am, and he was talking to you like I was a young guy, much younger, I had to admit that when I went from 52 to 53, that's really, I was 53. Yeah. So when I went from 52 to 53, I was competing like in Savannah, Georgia, at Rodney Hilaire's Iron Eagle. That's what it's called, the WNBF Iron Eagle. Savannah is a beautiful part of the country, by the way, in Georgia. Beautiful. And when I went there to compete, it was after that show. I did my usual thing. I take a few months. I evaluate everything. Am I going to go on from there? And I realized I really was doing that crazy push all in the prior year because I wanted to surpass me from the year before. And I realized I didn't have any more to give. I already was going past that point. It was getting to be, this is like a job, and this is not my job. I do this for fun. And social media didn't even matter to me at that point because it was 2014 or so. I had zero social media presence, next to zero. It meant nothing to me at all. So it became a labor. I didn't want it to be a labor. I was not having fun. And I knew if I do it again, I risked hurting myself.
You mentioned Mike in the 90s, and I want to talk about a few things again with the training. But before we do, the listeners are like, come on, get into the training. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. How did you meet Mike? I know it's been said before, but for the listeners who may have not known, what was your first interaction with him? What made you want to reach out to him? And what year was it when you met him?
What made me eventually want to reach out to him was that he was